So, hello YouTube. This is video number 5 or so, something like that. It's midnight and it is March 19th. 19th. Well, almost 20th. So, anyway, just as a refresher, I started out in the beginning of January to make a SaaS business in 30 days for $100. And like every other business I've started, it's taking a little over twice as long, but this time it didn't cost twice as much. So, like, I'm still hovering right around $40 or so, something like that. And I've learned a lot. And my last video a month ago, just kind of as a recap, is I came up with this wild idea, like right at the beginning of the year, to start this SaaS business up. And I was going to see if I could do it in 30 days. And I was going to code all of it here on the couch or in my living room, and just to see if I could do it. And I have a full time job. I'm kind of a beginner. Well, I am a beginner coder. And I was just going to give this a whirl to see if I could pull it off. And it went pretty well for about a month. And then I lost all of my code. So if you look at, like, I think it's video 3, I was pretty bummed out about it because I'd been working on it for like a month and a half, and it was like some kind of weird thing with the download, and everything just like went to pot. And had to rebuild everything, got it going in about a week or so, and now I've kind of gotten bogged down in the details of it and pretty much have an operational app. The only thing that I'm really having trouble with now is applying all the data to go where it's supposed to. So building it really wasn't that hard. Getting the templates and everything to work the way that I wanted it to wasn't that bad. Now I'm kind of having to fight with myself over what's called feature loading. And feature loading means that, hey, it'd be really cool if I could do this. It's only going to take me like a couple hours to code it, and it's going to be so much better at the back end of it. And, yeah, that'd be cool. And then it's like a couple hours later, I'm like, hey, it'd be really neat if I could do this. And like, that would be really cool. So what I've learned from doing this is I've got like 3 other coding projects I'm doing on top of my normal job. So I've got like a couple websites and everything. And so I haven't had just a lot of time to devote to this. I mean, I'm up at midnight and I've just quit coding for a little while and might get back on it here in a minute. But I found out that when the longer a project takes, the more you tend to lose track of what you've done. So, I mean, that sounds really stupid, but when you're dealing with like just hundreds and hundreds of lines of code, and like every process that you put into place, like you have to code it in. So like all these little things that it does and all these little things that apply, and like all these little tidbits of knowledge that you can keep track of in your head, like you just can't keep track of. And unless you kind of finish a project in a timely manner, and doing it on the side, it takes a little longer. So if I was to do this again, and maybe if I knew what I was doing when I got started, what I would do was flow chart this thing out like I was supposed to. Is actually put, like, this is the index page, or the home page, and these are the buttons, and this is where the buttons are going to take you. And then I would actually draw a line and put what database all these things apply to, and then go from there. And I've done programs like that before, and it worked out like a dream. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. I knew what it wanted it to look like. I basically had built a wireframe. I didn't do that on this one because I'm like, this is like a really simple, CRUD app. It's create, read, update, delete, CRUD. This is relatively simple. I'm just applying a couple models to a couple of creator user references, and gonna put all this thing together, and it's not going to take very long. And then like life happened, and like this coronavirus has got everybody locked down, and just everything's gotten weird. And like in the meantime, I've been like working like crazy, so it's taken longer than I've expected. And it's because of that, I've ended up having to recode things that I'd already coded because I didn't exactly know the way that I did it the first time. And like, I haven't been coding long enough to know that like half this stuff isn't magic. So like I can't just read the code and know exactly what it's doing. I have to kind of like try it a couple times and then see if it works. And then when it works, I don't touch it, and it's like, then I move on. And then when something else doesn't apply right, I have to go back and like, redo a few things. well, that's, that's fine. It's pretty much how coding goes anyway. But it's kind of hurt me because it's like I don't know exactly how everything worked. I mean, even though I'm pretty good about, you know, annotating my code and putting things in there of, what does what, and like, my code basically reads like a book, because I have to like leave notes to myself of like reference materials of, hey, I got this from here, this is the example that I use, this is how I'm, working with it. Especially when you start talking about things like, Stripe integration and some of the different libraries I'm using, and some of the subdomain stuff, I mean, and throwing all that stuff in there, the bigger this project has gotten, the harder it is to keep track of it in my head. So I'd like to think I'm pretty intelligent. I'm nowhere near bright enough to be able to figure that out. So, whew, so the project is kind of on. I'm right here at the end. I've got it where it's pretty well working now. It's like there's a couple little things I need to do, like the basics of how this SaaS business works is if if you have a small business and you have inventory, what this thing does is it lets you enter your specific business information in, like your phone number and your contact information, the title, your location, and it builds a very simple website for you. A lot of people do that, not a big deal. This one is different because it lets you do it from a smartphone. And if you have inventory, which is how this thing, my simple inventory, heaven forbid, have inventory. Um, when you list your inventory, you um, take pictures with your phone, you list it with your phone, and as soon as you hit submit, it updates that listing and it builds all this stuff for you. So it makes it really simple to list and to show these things online. So I thought that'd be like super useful. And it's been going swimmingly, except for, these little tidbitty things that I haven't quite been able to figure out. So that's what I've been building is this, subscription service that does these things and builds a really nice website and, templates that are geared toward the business. And all this stuff is pretty well done. But the project has gotten so big that it's really hard to control because like, I didn't give myself enough of a map of how I was going to build this thing in the beginning, even though I could have done it. I mean, it's like I have pretty well been following it in my head, but the specifics of how this thing goes in, like the if statements of, okay, when the user is signed in, they can see this, or if that the user has these permissions that they can see this and this, or the website template that comes in, it's like if they have filled out this information, they can see this but not this. And if you're not a programmer, I know that sounds like gibberish, but basically what I'm saying is the more stuff that you put into the website, the more stuff reveals itself as being there. Now in the code it's always there, but if you don't actually fill out the information, like an about us section, that if you don't fill that out, it just doesn't show up. It's just not there. So you have to build around that. And like if certain amount of inventory, like if you don't do anything featured, well, of course the featured section isn't going to show up. Things like that. So that's what I've been building into it and trying to get a good quality product and to get something that I would use myself. That was one of the big things is like I'm trying to make this thing that I would use and that I would enjoy and that would be super simple for somebody to use because not everybody's real technical. I tend to be, but I've kind of had to learn it. Um, I've been writing programs for a couple of years. I've only been coding them here for the last couple of months. I've been using Bubble and a few codeless programming, and they work fine, but they're very limited in what the scope of what you can do. And I ended up going with a Python Django stack and going from there. Quit, Odin. I don't want to play with you. Stop it. Go sit down. Quit it. No. Don't bark at me either. I'm doing a video. Stop. Don't bark. But anyway, so basically the stack is going pretty well. Like everything's kind of fallen into place. I'm pretty happy with how everything's going. But it's I'm going to put you in your pen. Stop it. I ain't got time to dick with you. I've already taken you out. You're fine. We'll get in the video. What are you barking at? We'll get the video. Stage fright. But anyway, so this thing's gonna wrap up eventually, and I don't know. Like I said, it maybe another week, like 3 days maybe, before the thing's taking subscriptions. That's what I'm thinking anyway. But we'll see how it all goes. If I don't end up killing my dog, idiot. But I don't know. Like I said, if I had to go back and redo it, it would probably be fine if I went in there and like planned it out a little bit better and really gave myself a good roadmap of how I wanted the technology flow to go. Not the user experience so much, but the technology flow. That there's two ways you can do this. You can either build a skeleton website that just basically does the nuts and bolts of what you want, and then go back and add to it and add features. Like if you're going to do like 4 different models, or database models, go through and do like one field each and just make sure everything applies the right way and that you can call it the right way and everything's falling in, and then it's like you go back and just start adding features to that. That's one way of doing it. Another way is you start at the absolute very beginning and then you just start working to the back. I did some weird mix of between the two of them, and that was probably wrong. Like I've been bouncing around like crazy, and I really should have had like some kind of roadmap of how I was going to build this thing, because it's like I've never built anything that's this complex and this all encompassing. Like I had the user model built and the subscription model built before I'd done the first model. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get this really hard part done first, and I did finish that up, and that's been fantastic, and so I haven't had to work with that. But because I'm not really dealing with like Stripe or anything, and I haven't for like a couple weeks now, it's like now I've gotten to the point where some of the pages that come in, like I really don't want them to view it if they don't have an active subscription. Well, that's like Stripe. It's like I could have just done some real simple stuff and then like applied it and then come back and done a few a few decorators on there to where that Stripe would come into play. And it's just like I had no plan. This is really my first subscription website that I've ever done, and like I've learned a lot, and I really don't want to have to go through and recode this thing again. I've got a really good bare bones website going, but I don't know. Like my inexperience is showing, and I know it. So that's kind of where I'm at.